This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Former Arkansas pitcher James Teague, now at the Teague Law Firm, joining us on Halftime on this Friday in Athens, Georgia. Hey, James, how you doing? What's new?
Hey, Phil. That's not much. Just another day at the office. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. It's another day at a baseball park, but it's a day after Arkansas lost a Friday game, or a Thursday game, because today's Friday. See, I still don't know what day it is, guys. Hey, by the way, did you lose track of what day it was when you played professional baseball? Because when I worked in pro baseball in the minor leagues, man, Tuesday felt like Friday, Wednesday felt like Saturday. The only day I ever knew it was Sunday because we had a day game. Did you forget what day it was?
Yeah, it was kind of like that movie Groundhog Day, where you wake up and you just kind of relive the same day over and over again, and you're on a bus and it's 3 a.m. and you just kind of sleep and eat what you can, and then before you know it, the season's over. So yeah, definitely that was my experience in pro ball.
James, how did y'all adjust to time zone change? Was that a little different too? What's the biggest adjustments you had to make to time zone?
Because I've been screwed up by the 1 hour change. 1 hour change.
Well, luckily for us, all of the affiliates were on the East Coast, so we just actually traveled north and south, all the way down to South Carolina, all the way up to New York. So we didn't have to go east and west, so that was nice at least.
College baseball does not screw your mind up the way that pro baseball does. I usually know what day it is, man, because every day, you know what it's like? Every game in college baseball, the day of the game has its own personality. Tuesday and Wednesday have their own personality. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they all have their own different personality. So I usually know what day it is. That's why I'm screwed up. Today feels like a Saturday because it's the second day of a series.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Friday's kind of got those jitters, you get the feeling it's all hyped up, and then by Sunday you've already been through a battle for 2 days and you're just trying to wrap it up.
What's Van Horn like after a loss? See, now yesterday's loss was not one of those games where you feel like, you know what, the opponent just outplayed us. There were 11 runners left on base. They were 3 for 18 with runners in scoring position. There were plays that didn't get made in the field that led to 2, maybe 3 run scoring for Georgia. So what's Dave Van Horn like the day after that?
Well, I think he knows that the team is better than that, and they're gonna play better than that. I think just kind of one of those games, shake it off. Would have been great to pick this one up on the road, and we really should have. But now we got to go out and play solid baseball for 2 games and win the series and get back to Fayetteville. So I don't think he'll harp on it too long. You're going to have those games here and there, but just got to bounce back.
To do those little things that this team usually just kind of knows how to do. James, hey, I was reminded, I was talking with Bobby Wernis about this yesterday. Do you remember finishing the 2015 season here at Foley in Athens against Georgia?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember it because it was probably one of my better starts where I was kind of, more in control of what I was doing that day on the mound.
So the thing that stood out to me that I remember that Bobby and I were reminiscing about, you remember this was after the Saturday game, so it was the last game of the series. You guys took the final 2 from Georgia. And Georgia, their players came out onto the field, sat on the grass, and watched on the video board Tennessee and Mississippi State. And I think they needed Tennessee to lose, and Tennessee won, and that was the thing that kept Georgia out of making the SEC tournament. Do you remember? Because I remember seeing all their players on the field, and immediately, like, their shoulders slumped, their heads fell, and I thought, my gosh, we just saw these kids' season end right in front of their eyes. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was pretty bad because we just won the series on the road, so we're all feeling good, and so they're feeling down from that. Now, because they lost, they got to make sure that, like you were saying, I think Mississippi State had to win that game, and there was a play at first. Mississippi State had a first baseman. He had to weigh 300 pounds, 6'6", huge guy. He fielded the ball, and he went to tag the first baseman, and the first baseman walked back. Well, then he tried to throw the guy out at home, and then there was a wild throw, and then Tennessee wins, and they lose. And so they actually lost on a routine play as well, which made it even worse. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, that one stood out to me. It definitely stood out. So,
as a pitcher, I was going to ask you because they had kind of kicked some balls around yesterday. But when something like that happens and you got to get that 4th out in the inning, how does the team react, and how did you react as a pitcher?
Well, I mean, you want to give the correct answer that says, "Oh, my guys got me and everything's fine." But I mean, in your head, you are a little bit pissed. Like, there's really no way around it. But, you walk guys, you make bad pitches, and in the same way, guys make errors. It's just part of the game. So, when you got to get a couple extra outs in an inning and, maybe some run score because of it, it's obviously frustrating. But, in the grand scheme of things, you recognize that, everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes, got to bounce back, because the next play they might make a great diving catch, and then now we're kind of even.
And they might get an RBI. Does it seem like it would work out that way, where somebody boot a ball, then they'd get up there the next at bat and do something good?
Yeah, I think it all what kind of goes around comes around, and everyone recognizes that with their teammates, and that everyone's doing their best.
James, did you ever catch? I knew you were a pitcher, and I'm assuming you were a position player, in high school and a hitter and all of that. But were you ever a catcher?
So a funny story, in pro ball, we were so bored one day. I put on all the gear, and I was like, I'm just going to be the bullpen catcher today because we're bored. And there was a big lefty. It was Bobby Bonilla's son, Brandon Bonilla, and he threw one, and it cut on me, and it ripped the glove off, sprained my thumb, hit me in the chest, and I was like, I quit catching. I'm done with this. I had one official bullpen. He was actually going into the game. I mean, it was his pregame bullpen, and I was back there, no experience catching. That tells you how serious some of the pro ball games are. But I hung it up after that. My thumb still bothers me 4 years later.
So it's just as hard to catch a slider as it is to hit a slider.
Oh man, it's crazy. Some of those guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Some of those guys, the big league catchers, when I was at big league camp, I mean, you would be crow hopping on the mound, and they catch it, no gear, little glove on, don't care. I mean, they're just so immune to it. But if you're not used to seeing it, getting down and catching 90 with a ball that's moving left or right, I mean, it feels like it's coming 120.
Oh, never mind the idea that dude might be throwing a curveball that he's planning to spike with a runner at third base, knowing full well that you're going to have to do everything you can to get on top of that thing and block it and just wear another one. Catching, I've always thought, and we got into this earlier because Parker Rowland didn't play yesterday because of what Dave Van Horn described as a sore back. He might not play this weekend. Who knows? So you're down to one catcher, and I don't know who the emergency catcher is on this team. I'm not sure if they know who the emergency catcher is right now. There have been other guys. I heard stories. Tim Carver got thrown behind the plate one game. A couple other guys here and there, but you can't really just throw somebody behind the plate. That's just, you can put somebody at shortstop. You can put somebody in left field. Catcher is. That's the most special, like the most specialty position in baseball.
Oh yeah, for sure. We actually had Jackson Lowry. You may remember him. He was a pitcher at Arkansas when I was there. He caught one midweek game, one road game because the catcher was hurt. And we had Alex Gosser. We didn't want to use him because he was actually redshirting, and we didn't want to waive his red shirt. And so Jackson Lowry caught, and I remember Michael Gunn threw a big curveball, and Lowry's glove bounced off the dirt because it was moving so erratically, even though the pitch was just about down the middle. And so you realize then, you're like, wow, this catching thing's a lot harder than it looks for people who don't do it.
Wow. Well, hey, so another thing that we brought up earlier were a caller asked about scholarships for baseball players, and I'm pretty sure there are no full scholarships. I mean, you have 11.7, and that's all you have to work with. And that's separate from so many of the other sports on campus, which a lot of them most of them are full scholarship sports. Did that ever create a kind of a different mentality between the teams on campus? Not like us against them or anything like that, but it's like, you know what, their school's all paid for. Us over here, we're a little bit different here. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, everyone knows that football pays the bills. It's no question that they probably deserve more scholarships. But the implementation of the Title IX and how the scholarships have to be allocated. Baseball is kind of on the shorter end of the stick because you've got 35 guys on the roster, you got 11 scholarships. And if you've got a guy that you're competing with LSU, Tennessee, Texas, and you want him to come to school, let alone not get drafted, you probably should be offering him, 50, 60, 70, 80%. Well, that's almost a whole scholarship for one guy. I was on 30%. I had academic 30%, and so I paid 30% of the rest was kind of how I did it. And I think that's pretty standard. Most guys kind of get in that 30 to 50 range, and they just kind of fraction them out and try to put the pieces together. But yeah, that's always been a problem in baseball, and I don't really know how to fix it or what the solution is.
James, before we go, I think it was last week or the week before we spoke about about divorce and divorce that was unchallenged, where the parties kind of work together to make it an easier process. Sometimes as families move past divorce, there are situations where one parent might want to gain full custody of their child over the other parent. How do you work with child custody changes?
Yeah, so anytime you have a divorce, you're going to get a decree, and that decree is going to specify, who has custody, how the property is allocated, kind of what the rules of the game are going forward. Well, people oftentimes aren't perfect, and sometimes they don't follow those rules. They don't take kids to appointments. The school goes bad. Maybe mom says, dad's not doing what he's supposed to do, and I want custody back, or vice versa. And we see that all the time, and people come into us and say, I'm just not pleased with how things are going. And we can file to, modify custody or modify another part of your divorce based on a material change in circumstance. And that's something that, we do a lot, and that, we've had a lot of people who've had, decrees that they weren't pleased with. They come in and we see if we can change it, and we kind of go from there. But it's not a hard process, but it's just something that, for some people it's worth doing.
James, appreciate you hopping on. Always enjoy these conversations. Thanks for your time, and we'll do it again Friday next week.
Yeah, sounds good, Matt. Bill, talk to you in a little bit.
Thanks, James.
James Teague has joined his father, Robert, at Teague Law Firm. Teague Law Firm has been around nearly 30 years. James can help you with all family law matters, including what he just discussed, guardianships and adoption as well. He can help with criminal law, such as traffic offenses, DWIs, and more. Estate needs, James at Teague Law Firm can fill your need there, too. Teague Law Firm is a full-service law firm. And when you call them at 479-877-1688, 479-877-1688, you will talk to actual lawyers. They will call you back, and you'll get their direct cell phone. You can also visit them online at teague-law.com.
BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.